In this module, we are going to dive into adding actions to your GPT. Now, what are actions good for within your GPT? Well, actions are real-time actions that your GPT can make. And these actions are using API calls in order to run. Now, an API is just a way that an application can talk to and connect with another application. And the beautiful thing is, since we are creating this GPT, we have the ability to actually create certain endpoints to call within this GPT when the time is right. Now, this may sound all a little bit confusing and a little bit intimidating, but don't worry, because I knew very little about code and very little about API calls and definitions before I dove into learning this. In this video, I'm going to make this as beginner-friendly as possible, and I'm going to be using an app called Zapier along the way, which definitely helps the process and takes some of that custom code and schema out of it. Now, if you are more advanced with this, I would love some feedback and some tips on how to improve, and also I would just love to see what you are doing with this in order to build your GPTs. Now, for the rest of us, I'm going to show us the most beginner-friendly way possible in order to add actions to your GPT. This can allow you to command your GPT in order to add things to your Google Calendar, add things to a Google Sheet, a Google Doc, maybe you want to email somebody something. And it's not just with the Google Suite, you can do this with apps like Trello as well, potentially Notion, maybe even Slack. You can get really in-depth when you use Zapier with this, and that's why I love it so much. Now, once again, if you haven't been following along, I recommend going back and checking out the previous modules where we are building this sleep protocol bot, where based on my daily stats and some metrics and the way I feel throughout the day, scores get generated to an overall score. I want to import this overall score to a Google Sheet, and based on the way I felt throughout my day, I want ChatGPT to give me an estimated sleep time, and I want that sleep time to be put into my Google Calendar as a reminder, wind down, it's time for bed. And I want this to all happen within ChatGPT. I want this completely automated. So far, we've added an initiate sleep protocol command, which triggers a questionnaire. Now, this questionnaire goes to these 4 categories, which have 5 questions in each, and I rate my day on a number of factors from a scale of 0.0 to 10.0, and that score gets generated into an overall score, and that's where we're at right now. We've even generated a nice little picture using the knowledge section. As you can see, we have some knowledge in here of different images that ChatGPT can base its image generation off based on my score. So if I have a really bad day, it's going to generate me a red sad face, green smiley face if I do a good on a certain day. And so now we want to actually automate this, and we want to do the bottom half of this workflow. Google Sheets estimated sleep time into my Google Calendar. So the Google Sheets mainly just for tracking. So I can mention that right here. I can just say tracking, and this has nothing to really do with my Google Calendar, but I just want to be able to track that and show you how you can implement this into Google Sheets as well. The estimated sleep time is going to be based on daily inputs. So I want ChatGPT to give me an estimated sleep time based on how my day went. If I didn't have that good of a day and I'm filling these questionnaires out around 4 or 5 in the afternoon, if I set that scheduled that every time I'm filling these out, I want it to be at a certain time, then what time should I go to bed? So if I get a bad score, then I want ChatGPT to give me a reminder on an estimated sleep time, okay? So this is going to be great, and I'm going to show you how you can set this up. Take this information that I'm giving you and apply it to your own. Of course, you can build the sleep optimizing bot with me, but I want to show you just general examples. That way you can start to think and apply this to engineering your own life and automating your own workflows. By all means, though, you can use this if you'd like. So let's get started. Let's head down to the bottom left-hand corner here and select Create New Action. Once you hit Create New Action, this page will pop up with a heading that says Add Actions, and then you will notice this intimidating schema word where you can enter your own code, and then there's an authentication process and a privacy policy, which we will all dive into later. But up here, as you can see, I don't know why my examples are always like this, but if you select in one of these examples, this is kind of what that schema looks like. Gives you a list of available actions and so on. But that's not what we're going to be doing today. We're not going to be learning how to type and create your own schema. What we're going to be doing is we're just going to be importing from a URL, and it's going to fill all of that information out for us. So right now I'm going to delete that action. I'm going to scroll down and hit Create New Action again. And now we can start importing from Zapier. Now Zapier, if you don't know what it is, can connect 6,000 different apps with each other. And these 6,000 apps can communicate with each other, and different actions can be performed when a certain thing happens on another app. It's great for automation and custom workflows. Chances are, if you're in this course, it was through a Zapier. So my payment processor, once a payment's triggered, sends an email with the product based on the amount paid or based on the product description line. And that's how it knows what email to send and how to deliver the product. So that's a quick example of how Zapier is used and what Zapier is really about. So that's what we're going to be using in today's module in order to connect our GPT so that when we tell ChatGPT a certain action, it can then import information from our chat thread into Google Sheets and into Google Calendar. And the thing I love about Zapier is it makes it super, super easy. I will leave this link beneath the video, and they give a full guide on how to get started. Now, the guide is a little bit confusing. I had to watch a YouTube video to go along with this, but it gives you the steps needed in order to start providing automations to your GPT. So the first thing we need to do is we need to copy this special URL to our clipboard. So what we can do is we can just copy this URL with Control-C, head back over to ChatGPT, and where it says import from URL, we can select that, paste in that link, and then we can hit import. Now, as you can see, all of this very confusing information comes up that, to be honest with you, I have no idea what it means or how this even runs, but what I do know is Zapier made it super easy to import that URL and to get all of this schema. And now we can see a list of our available actions. We can get information from Zapier, and we can also run and post that information from Zapier to whatever app we connect it with as well. So this is going to be very, very powerful. Now, there will be some authentication needed when connecting Zapier, but we will get into that later. And also, if you want to make your GPT public, you are going to have to provide a privacy policy here in order to, once again, make that GPT public and available for use. But if you're doing this for only you don't have to worry about a privacy policy. Next, for the first time in this process, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit save. And as you can see, this red notice will come up saying that I need a valid privacy policy to share this link. But what I can do is I can save it to only me. That way, all of this information and action is saved. I can hit confirm. And it's good to get in the habit of publishing your changes as you go. But now what I can do is I can go up to this upper left-hand corner here, and then I can hit Edit GPT. And then I can go back to the Configure section and then back down into my actions if I would like. Now, the next step is we actually need to create Zapier actions in order for us to develop workflows and automations that we can run from ChatGPT. So let me show you how to do that. Now, within this nice little document that I was showing you before where we got our URL in order to import into ChatGPT to get the schema, what we can do is we can scroll down a little bit further, and there's another link right here that I will be providing beneath this video. And you need to copy and paste the whole link into your URL, and then it will take you to a page that looks like this. Now, if you don't have a Zapier account, it will take you to a page where you need to sign up for a Zapier account. I think you can try this for free. I use a paid Zapier account, but I do believe you can do this for free. Don't quote me on that though, but I would give it a shot if I were you. And this is going to be a page where all of your GPT actions are saved. It's a nice OpenAI GPT action page, and you can add new actions, you can manage your access, and you can activate these like this, or you can deactivate them like that. So next, all we have to do is add a new action. And this is how we are going to completely automate our workflow. But something I want you to keep in mind is that as I was thinking and as I was working a little bit off camera, I decided that it would be most efficient and a lot easier to learn, instead of doing a Google Sheet, to do a Google Doc. Now, Google Docs, I can still sort in Google Drive. I can have a report for each day. It will generate for me after I tell ChatGPT to import that data from ChatGPT to Google Docs. It will create a new sheet, and I think this will be much better. So what I can do in order to get started on this is select Add a New Action, and here I will be able to type in different actions from thousands of different apps. So what I could do is I could type in something like Google Docs. And then all of the actions will come up available with Google Doc. As you can see, you can upload a document, find a document, append text to a document, create document from a text, and that's what we want to do. We actually want to create document from text, so that's what we're going to select. And then you will be asked to connect your Google Docs account, which I've already done. So you can hit this drop down, and then you can select your Google Docs account that you need. And now you get some options here. For document name, you can set a specific value for this field so all of your documents are named the same, or you can have a different document name for each one and have AI guess the value for that field. That's what we want to do, and same with the document content. We want AI to guess the value for the fields because it's going to be taking that data that we get from our sleep coach and implementing it into this Google Docs. So we want AI to generate those fields. Next, what you want to do is hit Show All Options. For folder, I'm just going to leave in my root folder. You can, if you want to, drill down into some subfolders and different folders on Google Docs. Maybe I can make a sleep folder, but for now, I'm just going to do the root. And then this is a very important step when you give your action name, and you want to make sure that you remember this name and that you can copy and paste this name very simply. I would just name it something very simple. I'm just going to name this Importing ChatGPT Sleep Data. Something like that. It doesn't have to be too crazy, just a little bit of a way to describe what I'm doing with this command, and I'm just giving this action a name. So maybe I can mention that this is to Google Docs. That way I don't get confused if I'm doing it on other services or other apps, other platforms. And then what I can do is I can hit enable action. And now as you can see, I have this action right here that's enabled, but how do we actually get it to work within ChatGPT? Well, there's a few things we need to do. First, we need to go back to this getting started guide with Zapier AI actions, and we need to scroll down until we find the rules section. Now, this looks pretty complicated and like a lot of information, but what you want to do is you want to copy and paste this into your instructions within your GPT. So I'm going to copy this, I'm going to head over to ChatGPT, and then I'm going to open up my instructions, and I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom. It's very important that you make sure you scroll and do this all the way at the bottom of your page, beneath all of your previous instructions. Then I'm going to paste it in. And what you want to do is you want to leave everything exactly the same. But the only things you do want to change are these two actions down here. Now right now there's two actions in here, but we only have one action needed in order to test this out. So what you can do is you can delete this second action and make sure that you leave the action and the confirmation link for the first action that you have up here. But we can delete that. We can enter down a few times to give us some room. And now we need to paste in the information that is custom to us. So in order to do that, we need to find action and confirmation link. So first what I can do is I can just delete all of this so you know what we're working with here, and we have two empty spaces. So again, action and confirmation link. What we need to do is we need to go back to our actions that we have saved over on OpenAI, actions.zapier.com/GPT/actions. And what we need to do is we need to click into our action that we created, and we need to hit show all options. And now we need to copy our action name, Control C, and then we need to head back over to ChatGPT, and where it says action, we need to paste in our action name. So importing ChatGPT sleep data to Google Docs. And this has to be exactly the same. It's very important that you make it an identical copy. That's why I just like copying and pasting in, because it rids any confusion or anything like that in order to have this be successful. And now for the confirmation link. The confirmation link is within this same page that you got your action name from. The confirmation link is the URL of this page. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you copy the entire URL. So I like to click at the end of the URL, hit Control A, or you can just drag and make sure you get every single character in here. And then you hit Control C, or just copy this by right-clicking it and hitting copy. Heading back over to ChatGPT, and where it says confirmation link, you want to paste in that link. And then you leave everything else the same. And again, you want to make sure you put these rules beneath all of your previous instructions. Keep in mind you do have an 8,000 character limit, so you may need to go back in and edit some things if you are going over that. Some other things that I've done while I was off camera was I added this custom setup that I want ChatGPT to generate my conclusion in. I want it to generate date, and then I want it to lay out my scores and stuff like this, and then I want it to generate me a conclusion. And this data right here is the data that I'm going to enter into Google Docs and import in there later after we test this out to make sure that this works. Now in the upper right hand corner, I'm going to hit update and confirm to only me. Now we can actually try this action out. We can test it in the create section over here. So when you are testing a GPT, the action side of things in GPT, I don't recommend doing it in the preview, because if a problem does come up, you will be able to use the GPT builder in order to help fix it and in order to help find the problem. So it's going to be very powerful when testing in the GPT builder. So what we can do is we don't have to go through our entire process. We can just ask our sleep optimizer to import data into Google Docs. And so now that I have this filled out, I have a nice little tip down here: quit drinking coffee before bed. I have some scores implemented in here, and then I have a nice little date up top. What I can do is I can tell this GPT builder when I'm in my sleep optimizer to import this into Google Docs. I can say, import into a Google Doc, please. And it's important to keep in mind, if this is your first time testing it or sending off your GPT with your API call or your action, it may ask for an authentication, and you might just have to sign into Zapier again and refresh the page and come back here. Then it should work. But don't be concerned if it says error authenticating, because all it might need is just another sign in. So now we're going to actually test this out. What we need to do is we need to import into a Google Doc, please, and we have our template here, which will be generated at the end of a Sleep Optimizer session. I just didn't want to go through the trouble of filling out all that information yet again. So now I can send off this message, and it's always going to pop up with these little allow buttons. So you can hit always allow, or you can just hit allow. For now, I'll just hit allow. And now it says stop talking to actions.zapier.com, but it's going into starting the actual action of creating the document. As you can see, it says the sleep data has been successfully imported into a Google Doc named Sleep Analysis 11/28/23. So it's giving me that custom name. I didn't have to tell it to name it anything. It's taking a name based on a date, and you can organize it good that way. You can let AI generate your names for you. And now I can view that Google Doc using the following link. I can select it. And as you can see, it completely imported everything I needed right into this Google Doc without me having to copy and paste anything. All I had to do was send off a command to ChatGPT, and it did the entire import process for me. And you can get as custom as you want with your templates and your formats, but this was just a very basic example on how you can do this. I might even be able to increase the text size here. So now I have a nice little sleep analysis report for this date, and it's very automated, very custom. Now that we have that Google Doc importing from ChatGPT with all of our sleep data, there is one more thing we need to do, and this is going to be generate an estimated sleep time within ChatGPT so that every time we are using all of our stats, that our bot can generate an estimated sleep time that we should go to bed based on our daily inputs. Next, after we generate that estimated sleep time, we need to add an action that imports it to our Google Calendar. And then we can be reminded in our Google Calendar on that estimated sleep time so that when we go to Google Calendar, we have a reminder in here that's automatically imported from GPT. We can create this as an event so we can be reminded, and it can say, hey, this is time to go to bed, you know? So maybe we use our sleep optimizer around hour 1700, or in other words, 5 p.m. Well, what we can do is we can generate that estimated sleep time based on our stats and then import it into Google Calendar so that we're reminded at 9, 10, 11, or whenever ChatGPT tells us that we should go to bed. So first, what I need to do is I need to manipulate my instructions a little bit. I need to head over to configure and open up my instructions. And I need to add something that generates an estimated sleep time based on my stats. So I told ChatGPT underneath my conclusion, after you give me that conclusion, ask me if I would like to proceed with a recommended sleep suggestion. And based on my scores, give me a recommended time to go to sleep on this upcoming night. Lay that out like this. Recommended sleep time, and then we have a nice little example with a nice little time slot in here. So we go 9:30 p.m. to 7 a.m. Depending on how my day went or how I felt throughout my day, ChatGPT can give me that recommended sleep time and have it automatically imported into my Google Calendar. So now that I have the instructions on the front end, let's go to the actions that are going to make this run on the back end using Zapier. So we have everything set up currently. You don't really need to change anything with your actions, but what we do need to do is go back to our saved GPT actions on this URL, and we need to hit add a new action. Once we hit add a new action, we can search for Google Calendar. And Google Calendar should pop up all sorts of different actions. But what I want to do is I want to find where you can quick add an event. So we can take this example right here for Google Calendar quick add event, and we can select it. Then here we can choose our Google Calendar account, which I have mine selected. You may need to hit connect new and connect your Google Calendar account. It doesn't take too long. All you need to do is hit allow a couple times and then it's in here. So what I can do is I can select this calendar field down here, and then I can select sleepy time. And now all of my events will be added to that sleepy time calendar. And it will populate over here once I have this checked on these calendars underneath my calendar. So that'll be very nice having that all set up and organized in a nice little calendar. So if I don't want to see my bedtimes and I don't want to see what time ChatGPT is telling me to go to bed, I can just uncheck that, and then all of them will disappear. And for describe event, I want to have AI guess a value for that field. I can hit show all options here. And now just like before, we have to give an action name. I can just say ChatGPT sleep time to Google Calendar, something simple like that. And now that I have that all good, I can hit enable action. And now this action is ready to go once it's enabled. Now, just like before, we need to add that action and confirmation link. So we can head back over to our instructions and we can scroll all the way down to the bottom. You don't need to mess with anything here. Underneath this though, what you can do is you can copy this, the entire thing, even with the hyphen, hit Control C, and then you can enter down once and paste it in. And now you just want to replace this information with the new information that we just generated with this second AI action. So I can head to ChatGPT sleep time to Google Calendar, and then I can copy this confirmation link up top. I can head back over, confirmation link, paste it in. Action, what I can do is I can hit show all options and copy and paste in this action name, just like shown, just as we did before. And now this is ready to go and we are ready to test this out. So what we can do is we can hit close, and now I'm going to update this. Now it's time to finally test our sleep optimizer. So what I can do is I can head over to my sidebar, I can open up the sleep optimizer, and now I can start by clicking initiate sleep protocol. And we're going to test this out to see if all of my actions actually run. And it tells me, just as we've asked, to provide the date in this format. So what I can do is I can provide my date really quickly, say 2023, send it off, and then it's going to get into the mood category. So now I'm going to go through and answer all of these questions. And then after my last category of entering in my numbers and my rating for each of my tasks for the work category, it says your total score is a 200 out of 200 because I put all 10s. This is an exceptional result. And then it says, would you like to conclude this session and receive a summary, maintenance tips, and a recommendation for tonight's sleep time? Additionally, based on your total score, I will generate an image reflecting your day's experience. And then I will say, yes, conclude. And now that I have that sent off, it's going to start creating the image, and let's see if it can do everything that we've asked it to. So it gave me that nice green smiley face, and then it's starting to go into the conclusion for 11/28/23, and it's going into my conclusion and maintenance tips. And again, it gave me this in this very nice format. And it asked me a question, are you ready to proceed with the Google Doc summary and the recommended sleep suggestion for tonight? I can just say, yes, proceed. I love only telling ChatGPT yes, and then having it do a bunch of stuff for me because I built it in the back end in order to get started. Now our APIs are going to work. It says start in action. I'm assuming we're going to have to hit allow here soon in order for Sleep Optimizer to talk to actions. And yes, if this pops up where we can allow or decline, obviously we want to allow. And it's going to first create the Google Doc summary using Zapier with that first API that we created. And then it says there was an issue importing the data into the Google Doc. This happens sometimes. All you really have to do is head over to your Zapier AI actions, and then refresh that page. And once that page is refreshed, now it should be working. And I can just say, instead of proceeding with the recommended sleep suggestion, I can say first, let's do the Google Doc. I have refreshed the page. Okay, and maybe after I refresh the page, I'm like, you know what? I want to give this Google Doc a name. I don't really want it to generate a name for me, even though it can, but maybe I want to give this Google Doc a name. I can tell ChatGPT, let's name the document sleep analysis, and then I can put a hyphen and put the date, 11/28/2023. Maybe I want to keep this nice and organized, so I even want to name my docs, but I want it to import the information for me automatically. So I've refreshed the page, and now we have a name for the sleep document, which isn't necessary, but I wanted to add that to show you can kind of change your flow as you're going as well. I'm going to send off that message, and now this message will pop up where once again we have to hit allow, which is okay. And for some reason there was an error when I hit allow, so I'm just going to hit allow again, and now it's going to be talking to actions.zapier.com. It's talked to it, and now it's starting the action. Let's see how it does. It says the data has been successfully imported into a Google Doc named Sleep Analysis 11/28/2023. And then it gives me a link that I can click on, and it takes me to my Google Doc automatically with all of my conclusion and maintenance tips, my scores, my date. So now I can store this in a Google Doc folder or maybe even a Google Drive folder. It did this in a very automated fashion. It's very nice. All we had to do is hit allow a few times. We can come in here, make it a little bigger if we want to, and now we have a nice little Google Doc with all this information in here. And then it gives me my recommended sleep time in here, but maybe I want it to import that recommended sleep time into my Google Calendar. That way I know, and I get notified when it's 30 minutes before my bedtime. So I told it to add my recommended sleep time to my Google Calendar, and let's see how this works. As you can see now, when I go to my Google Calendar, it's actually added in my recommended sleep time after sending out the prompt. So the APIs that we created in Zapier from ChatGPT Sleep Time to Google Calendar and importing that data into this Google Doc worked out very nicely. Now this was a pretty brief and user-friendly rundown on how to use APIs within the GPT feature and how to use that action section so you can start really customizing and automating your workflows within ChatGPT using the GPT builder in the configure section. Congratulations on finishing this module. This one was quite a lot, I will admit. I hope that you could follow along, and if not, I recommend going back and watching this over a couple times. With that being said, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you learned a little bit more about how to use APIs within your GPT. It's a little complex and it's a little annoying sometimes, but the trial and error will always prevail. So I do recommend always doing that. Testing out certain elements, testing out different zaps, different commands, different actions, how things react with one another. You can even set up zaps that go off when another zap is activated. So this can be very powerful, and I recommend you check that out. With that being said, congratulations and good job once again on finishing this module. I will see you in the next one.